The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 11. The consortium had acted exactly as Sky had described. The latest attack left the planet reeling and even more desperate for aid. The general had ordered the warship to follow Sky's coordinates, allowing the large craft to arrive at the far side of Niobe's closest moon safely and without detection. Niobe had agreed quickly to a harbinger's aid at the healing center. Too quickly. Sky's heart sank. Conditions must be worse than she feared. That thought was only confirmed as they cruised through the healing center. Most of the town, cities, buildings, all had been destroyed over the years of attacks, and without the income from their resources, they hadn't been able to rebuild. The planet was dying, and no one was even trying to help. They landed at the dock atop the healing center in Jareth's craft. Niobe's one sun had just started to rise over the horizon in the early morning hours. Several soldiers, both old and young, had come with them. They followed the two healers as they walked off the ship and were greeted by the center's senior master healer. He immediately debriefed Jareth on their desperate situation as they made their way to the roof access lift. Sky briefly watched the sun's orange rays reflect off the orange and green colored vegetation the planet was known for. She watched people moving in vehicles using ground roads and walkways. It was so different from her home planet where everyone flew. It was so simple, so relaxing and comforting. Even with so much destruction, it was a beautiful, calming planet. No wonder some of the best substances for healing were found here. A second cruiser passed over the healing center on their way to the fields to gather the needed materials for Militrax and other resources the warship needed. Sky shielded her eyes and watched it a moment before it dipped behind a distant mountain range to the fertile valleys on the other side. Most of the healers focused their attention on Jareth, unwilling to look or talk to the Harbinger. Sky was liking her disguise more and more. Jareth and Sky set up the helix quickly in the surgery to address the more severe cases. After everything was ready, they sterilized their hands and got to work. Hours went by, more injured were brought in. Sky concentrated on her work, but stole glances at Jareth, admiring his skill, his care, the way his eyes focused on his patients, the way the muscles tensed in his back as he worked. Midway through this work, she forced down a few bites of food and drank something between medical emergencies. Much later, they were finishing up the last of the most critical cases. Sky glanced out the window. The location of the suns told her it was early afternoon. She did the calculations, pleased they'd gotten through the critical victims so quickly. Now they could move from the surgery to the treatment rooms and take care of the less serious wounds and injuries. Sky changed into another clean healer's robe and carefully placed the soiled one in the incinerator. Two stations had been set up for them in the massive treatment room. Two lines had formed. Sky pretended to not notice the shift of people changing from her line to Jareth's line. She put on the kindest smile she could muster, even though she knew no one could see it, and motioned for her first patient. Sky was careful to speak with them kindly, no matter how they spoke to her or how much they flinched from her. She addressed each injury thoroughly and gently. She also moved as quickly as she could, knowing they would want to get away from her as soon as possible. Time passed. Her line was nearly gone while Jareth's was still out the door and around the building. Her current patient was a woman, slightly older than herself, a blast mark to her leg. It had happened days earlier, and the plasma hadn't been properly cleaned. Because of that, the burn ran deep and would probably cause a permanent limp. Sky explained this to her as she applied the liquid to neutralize the last of the plasma and applied the bandage that would protect the wound while it healed as much as it could. Sky didn't notice the woman's kind eyes watch her as she worked. I guess I understand a little of how you feel, she commented. Sky paused, knowing the woman was referring to her being a harbinger and had noticed her limp. The words the woman spoke sounded sincere, not mocking or repulsed. Sky continued her work as she glanced up at the woman who was watching her. I hope not, Sky answered softly. The woman smiled warmly. If no one else said this, thank you for coming. The kind gesture stung Sky's eyes. Thank you for letting me, she said back, a smile pulling at her lips. She finished with the bandage, then glanced over her patient one last time, knowing she didn't have many patients left. The woman's left eye, the pupil was larger than the right. Sky sat straighter in her chair to get a better look. Did you experience any impacts to your head or neck during that raid? She asked, feeling alarm rush through her arms. When I was shot, I stumbled. One of the privateers stepped on me and kicked my head with his other foot as he ran. Oh, crap, this woman needed a scan. Now. Jareth, is the helix still set up in the surgery? Sky called to her colleague as she stood. Jareth's head shot to her. Yes. Why? She asked the woman to stand carefully and gently took her arm to walk her to the surgery. She used her free hand to sign behind her back toward Jareth. Pupil blown, blunt impact trauma to her head 2 days ago. Hours later, Sky watched the woman's scans after the surgery. As she feared, the woman had a slow brain bleed, caught in time. The woman was resting now, leg still bandaged and brain recovering. Sky heard giggling, female giggling, close by. During her hours she'd worked with Jareth, she recognized the giggling meant he was also close. She turned toward the door, and no surprise, there he was, looking like he was trying to disentangle himself from several slender arms reaching for him. She was right, he was considered attractive by most. Very attractive based on the number of women constantly around him and their behavior with him. He glanced her way a moment, but it was long enough for them to grab a hold of him again. A desperate plea in his eye brought a smile to her face. She glanced one last time at the scan, then turned to rescue her colleague for the fifth time just that day. She limped over to the door, looking down as she walked. Then she saw the relieved smile he flashed at seeing her coming, the smile that caused her stomach to flutter. The moment she stepped through the door, all five girls let out soft but disgusted squeals and backed away from her. Jareth, on the other hand, moved closer to her and now was out of reach of his adoring harem as she started calling them in her head. Hello, Jareth. I need to consult with you on a case. She sounded as official as she could while she stood in front of him, blocking his women. He looked at her, flashed the dimple grin that made her grimace and roll her eyes. Of course, he answered and moved through the door in front of Sky, allowing her to block the other girls. He went over to the scan, monitoring the woman, and glanced it over, his face turning serious. That was a good catch. Left any longer, that bleed would have caused some real damage. She looked down, unaccustomed to receiving praise, and had no idea how she was supposed to react to it. She looked back at him, knowing she had to ask, but not sure how. Her knuckle brushed her lip as she tried to figure out how to ask. You're trying to decide something. What is it? Jareth asked, looking back at her. She took a deep breath and just decided to try her best. I didn't need a consult. You look like you needed help with those girls. I'm sorry if I misread that and you wanted to stay with them. You weren't jealous? He asked, his dimple showing. You're showing your dimple. Are you teasing me? She decided to just ask to make sure what she thought was happening was actually happening. His smile softened. He nodded. Oh, okay, she whispered softly, looking down to hide the smile caused by her excitement that she was starting to make sense of her new world. And yes, she added. Yes, what? Jeff asked. Yes, I think I'm jealous. I don't like the way other women treat you. At least I think that's what jealousy is. Sky needed to do more research, but it made sense in her head. That's what you think jealousy is? He asked, eyes wide, a smile showing just a little dimple. This was a new facial expression. She would need to see more examples before she could establish a context. I must be wrong. I've never been attracted to anyone, not intimately, and have never thought to research it. To be honest, I didn't think I would ever need to. It felt weird being so honest with anyone, much less anyone her body felt. The only word she could think of that fit was pulled to. The dimple disappeared and his smile widened. You're intimately attracted to me? Yes, I think so. I think it's because I've always had a strong reaction to kindness, and you show it all the time. Plus, you're very competent and knowledgeable. I think that's why my body keeps wanting to touch your body. She paused to think, looking him over. And physically, you possess a lot of markers that make you aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You're very symmetrical, well muscled. Biologically speaking, you'd make an excellent breeding partner. I can see why so many women would like. Hey, 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 no more of that dirty talk in a professional setting and stop looking at me like I'm a piece of meat, he interrupted. Sky shook her head slightly to stop her thoughts. Her eyes snapped to Giraffe's, worried she'd either been too weird or treated him like the other women. Then she saw his dimple. He was teasing her. Suddenly, she found herself laughing. The feeling was foreign and weird, but she liked it. Giraffe was laughing too. The sound made her tingle. So, you're intimately attracted to me? Giraffe repeated gently once her laughing had subsided. Sky watched him a moment, knowing that what she felt didn't mean anything. She broke eye contact and moved to check the scans of the post surgical patients. She couldn't look at him and needed to move, do something to distract her from the pain caused by what she was about to say. Yeah, but you don't have to worry. I know I'm not an attractive person, and I realized a long time ago I have no skills or abilities to maintain any kind of relationship. The only reason Kyla and I are friends are because of what we found and what we're working together to fix. If we ever get to the point where we finally set things right, I don't think she'll want anything to do with me. She wasn't sure if she could admit the thing that hurt the most. She took a deep breath and spoke. Love, friends, and family are just things I get to watch, not have. She knew what she was saying was a truth that always hurt, but it never made her sad until she explained it to Sheriff. She continued through the room until she checked the scan from the last patient. She started unbuttoning her healer's robe. You're leaving early? His voice came soft to her ears. I got through all my patients. I need to start the Millitrax. I'll see you back on ship. From Jareth's perspective, then she stepped out and was gone. She left him there, dropped information that felt like a bomb, and then just left. Jareth felt like he was in shock. His emotions were all over the place. His body didn't know whether it wanted to jump for joy or cry. Correction, parts of his body knew exactly what they wanted, heavily engorged and throbbing parts. His mind replayed what he had heard. She admitted to being intimately attracted to him. All he could do at the confusingly blunt confession was smile what he was sure was the most ridiculously pleased smile he had ever shown. Then she went over his attributes, had stated them so matter of factly they could have been a clinical review, but it was the hottest thing he'd ever heard. Especially the breeding part, his mind flashed of an image of her heavily pregnant with his child. Even now, that image had his body painfully swollen. He almost grabbed her to kiss her hard right then and knew he wouldn't be able to stop there. Then that laugh. He had seen her laugh before when they contacted the extraction team staying in her condo, but she hadn't made a sound at the time. The sound of her laugh, he knew he would never be able to describe it, but also never forget it. His body still vibrated from the sound even now. She didn't think she was attractive. Had the woman ever looked in a mirror? She didn't think she was capable of having any relationships. That really shocked him, and the fact that she saw her relationship with Kyla as only work related. She had given up her entire comfortable life on Sweeney, had since put herself at risk over and over to get Kyla what she needed to recover and heal, all with the expectation she would live the rest of her life on the run to keep a coworker safe. Jareth's shocked face softened into a smile. Sky was better at relationships than she realized, better at relationships than anyone he'd ever known. Now, he just had to figure out a way to help her see that. His mind started to work for a solution for Sky. The effort finally cooled his body, and he was able to make his way back to the treatment suites to continue his work. For the rest of the afternoon, Jareth frequently glanced at Sky's workstation, missed seeing her gentle nature show in her care for her patients. Logically, he knew it was better that her line was shorter. It left her time in the afternoon to work on Millitrax, which was the main reason why they had come to Niobe. The rest of the day, though, was much less enjoyable without her. Gradually, he started to hear whispers about her, the healing harbinger. As the wait time dragged for everyone who had refused her line, some wondered where the second healer had gone. Reluctant admissions that she had seemed to be a good healer, kind and gentle and quick with her patients, Jareth smiled, got an idea for the next day, and worked a little slower. Then he heard more comments circulated about her, news that a harbinger had saved one of their friends who was a mother and a wife. The woman's husband had rushed to see her, at first horrified a harbinger had been the healer for his wife. He preceded the word harbinger with a few derogatory words. Irrationally, Jareth wanted to throw the man out of the center with one swift kick. Surprisingly, the husband was chastised in the waiting area for speaking badly of her. Jareth stifled a smile and concentrated on doing his work as thoroughly as possible. He also accidentally caused a few ouches from the patients that had voiced some especially rude opinions of his coworker that rang through the treatment suite. By the end of the day, he was pretty certain Sky wouldn't be leaving early for the rest of the mission. Sometime later, Jareth looked around the dock area of the warship, confused by how at home he was starting to feel. Usually, he felt uneasy from the moment he boarded the space vessel until he left, but for some reason, it didn't seem as dingy now. The walls looked cleaner, lights seemed brighter, and was it his imagination or were there less scrap parts and rubbish piles? Even the workers looked more cheerful. He shook his head at the confusing thoughts and went straight for the lift. She was probably asleep by now. It had been a long day for both of them, but he would still go by the medical suite on his way to his quarters. As he neared, he noticed the door was still open, lights were on. Kyla was encased in a medical dome, and Sky was there, working at the helix. She was back in her black outfit under her healer cloak. She was preparing the ingredients for the medication at the center of this mission. She looked tired, but she still worked. She turned to check the settings for the device. She seemed to stumble and brace herself against the table. She caught her balance, rubbed her eyes, and tried to continue her work. That's it, Jareth said out loud as he moved toward her. Sky's head shot up and her eyes locked with his. He immediately saw how pale she was. What's it? What happened? She asked, confused and alarmed. You need rest. Now. Jareth wasn't sure why he felt so much urgency to take care of her, but he didn't care. He was going to make sure she was okay, no matter what. No, I'm fine. I need to add the Militrex that just finished being processed so I can increase Kyla's drip, prepare the next batch, then I'll rest. I'll do that. You rest, he told her firmly, but took her rest gently and pulled her to her resting berth. She looked at his hands on her wrist. Confusion shadowed her face as she followed where he guided her. Why doesn't it burn when you touch me? She asked, her voice soft, fatigued. This caused quite alarm bells in Jareth's mind. It burns when people touch you? Yeah, but not Kyla and not you. I don't know why. He helped her lie down, then grabbed some tubes from the helix. No, I don't need, she started as he moved to attach them to her arm. Sky, you went 3 days without any food and only minimal food since. You worked all day today, and we still have 2 more to go. Niobe needs you strong, not as another patient. He knew he needed an argument that would make her see it was more selfish not to accept help. To his relief, he watched her nod in agreement, lay back, and extend her arm. He moved quickly, attached the nutrient solution, and added a small amount of Millitrax. His initial scan of her confirmed she could use it. You're a gentle healer, she said softly. Jareth smiled. You've been treated by a lot of healers? He said it as a question, but he'd seen the damage her body had taken over most of her life. She nodded, her eyes lowered, and sadness shadowed her face. I wasn't very good at simulations. And it burned when they touched you? What had this girl been through? Sky nodded again. Yeah, and they weren't gentle like you. Your patients are very lucky. This made him smile. Why did he feel so ridiculously thrilled when she complimented him? Did I make you uncomfortable with what I said before I left the healing center? I'm afraid you won't want to be around me anymore, she admitted softly, her eyes searching his face. I'm glad you told me, and I definitely still want to be around you as much as possible. He confirmed the truth. She finally smiled. Eyes started to close from the mild sedative he added. Good. I feel what I always thought safe would feel like around you. I don't know why, but I like it. She closed her eyes, her breathing deep and steady. He brushed hair from the side of her face and was surprised when his body moved, kissing her lightly on the forehead. Her hand moved that same moment, closed over his at the side of her face. He rubbed her knuckles lightly with his thumb, then gently pulled away. He needed to take his own advice and get some sleep. He checked the timer on the current batch of Millitracks. He had enough time to clean up and change. After, he would come back and increase the drip as he and Sky had calculated. Then he would start the next batch and sleep. It would be ready by morning. He checked the settings on the Helix for both patients before he left the medical suite, resisting the urge to lie next to Sky, and made his way to his quarters.